Hey y'all, so today I'm going to be listing my least favorite books that I read in 2016. Now overall, 2016 was actually a pretty good reading year for me. I read a ton of books that I absolutely loved, and I do have a video where I rank my favorite books of 2016, which I will leave up in the cards. But today I'm going to be talking about the 5 books that I read in 2016 that were very disappointing. For one reason or another, I didn't really like these books. I've tried to explain this 20 times and I keep getting my wording wrong, but essentially my least favorite book of the year is going to be number 1 on this list, and like the least bad one is going to be number 5. So I'm going to be starting at number 5, working my way to 1. 1 is the worst on the list, 5 is the best on the list. I hope that makes sense because that's like the 10th time I've tried to explain that. Starting off at number 5 on the list is The Elite by Kiera Cass. This is the second book in the Selection series, and overall I just think it's a very, very weak series. Essentially, the series is set in a dystopian world in which our main character, America, is going through the Selection, which is essentially a like bachelorette or bachelor, I guess, type competition to become the princess. This series is really fun to read and kind of laugh at, but the writing is pretty weak, the world building is pretty weak, the characters are mostly annoying, and the only thing entertaining about reading it is laughing at how ridiculous all of those things are. I have yet to finish the trilogy. I probably will just because I want to see how everything unfolds, but I think it's probably going to be along the same lines as the rest of the series, which I think I gave The Elite 3 out of 5, just barely. I think I gave it 6 out of 10, so just barely squeaking in at 3 out of 5 because it wasn't awful. It was okay. Coming in at number 4 and also receiving 6 stars out of 10 is In Real Life by Cory Doctorow and Jen Wang. This is a graphic novel that honestly really suffered from how quick of a read it is. I got through it in like half an hour or less, and I just felt like it was really difficult to connect to anything in the story. So In Real Life takes place mostly in an online game, and I just thought that overall everything was kind of weak. I feel like the author tried to create a deeper message to the story, but given that it's such a quick read, I felt like there wasn't any time to get more than surface level. So things that were meant to be deep actually felt kind of cliche and predictable, and overall I thought it was okay, but I thought there needed to be more to it, and I didn't get that. Coming in at number 3 is Where Futures End by Parker Peavy-House. So Where Futures End is a story that is told through 5 short stories that take place in the future. So one of them will take place 10 years from now, another 20 years from now, so on and so forth. And basically these 5 stories are connected in some way and are kind of a puzzle that the reader is kind of supposed to put together as they read through the book. And overall, I feel like the author meant to give us a story that was very intriguing, and it was kind of a mystery to solve that will be revealed in the end, and it'll be really, really interesting, and at the end you'll be like, oh, I get it now. And I didn't get that from this story. I felt that it was constantly at surface level because of the fact that it was divided up by all of these short stories. I felt like there was never enough time to get in depth or in detail to any one thing. And in the end, I didn't really see it as much of a puzzle. I felt like everything was very straightforward, which led the end reveal to be kind of underwhelming. I just feel like the author tried to go for something and it just really, really didn't work out. The one good thing I can say about this book is that I thought that the writing was really good, but like I said, I thought that pretty much everything else about the story was not that great. Coming in at number 2 is Ghosted Volume 1 by Joshua Williamson. So I found this at this really cool comic shop while I was in Oxford, and I read it in February, and I just was completely underwhelmed. I didn't think that the characters were very interesting. I didn't really connect with any of the characters. I thought the story was pretty flimsy and not that interesting. Overall, I just didn't feel connected to this in any way, shape, or form. I just thought it was very, very mediocre across the board, and I considered continuing on to other volumes in the hopes that it would get better, but they all have very underwhelming ratings on Goodreads, which leads me to believe that the rest of the volumes are also very underwhelming. So I think that I'm going to just let this series go because this one was just not impressive in any way, shape, or form. And I completely forgot to explain what it's about. It's about a group of people trying to steal a ghost from a haunted house, which sounded super cool, but it just wasn't. And I gave Ghosted 2 stars out of 5, which was like 4.5 or 4 out of 10. I don't know, this was just very underwhelming. So now moving on to number 1 on the list, my least favorite book that I read in 2016. And honestly, it should not be a surprise because I've already mentioned it in this video, and I have a literal video on my channel about hate reading this book, and it is The Selection by Kiera Cass. I don't hate this book, because if I did, it would have 1 star out of 5 on Goodreads, and it has 2. I think I gave it 4 out of 10, which is 2 out of 5, like the lowest I can give it without giving it a 1. But I don't have many positive things to say about this book. When I give a book 2 out of 5, it means that I have a huge list of problems with it, but I don't hate it. And the reason I don't hate this book is because it was really fun to read. It's one of those books that you can just binge read, and it's really easy to do that. But I was having so much fun reading it and having so much fun binge reading it because it was so much fun to make fun of. So the reason that The Selection is at number 1 while The Elite is all the way at number 5 is because despite the fact that the annoying characters and flimsy world build and not so great writing was constant throughout both books, the inherent sexism in the society in the series was so much more prevalent in book 1. Like, there were a couple instances in book 2 where I noticed it and I was like, really? But in book 1, it was so heavy-handed. Like, the society is so set in gender norms that are so ancient and annoying and awful that it was painful to read like the first 50 pages of this book. It was fun to make fun of, but it was so painful to see all of these gender norms be so heavy-handed. And like I said, it got better in book 2, and that's the only reason that book 2 got 3 stars instead of 2, because it was so heavy-handed in book 1 that book 2 was almost a breath of fresh air. So yeah, if you want to hear more about my thoughts on The Selection, or if you want to see what I thought about it as I was reading, I will go ahead and link my Hate Reading The Selection video up in the cards, because it was a journey. So those are my 5 least favorite books I read in 2016. Like I said, 2016 was a pretty good reading year. There were some 3-star books on this list, so there weren't a ton of like really awful things that I read in 2016, and I read a lot of really awesome books. And I hope that'll continue into 2017 too, crossing my fingers. If you do want to check out my favorite books of 2016, the link will be up in the cards, like I said earlier. As always, I will leave links down in the description to my blog, Twitter, and Goodreads. Please add me as a friend on Goodreads. I would love to be friends with all of you. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!